I never grew up with educators that look like myself. So I
100.
feel like honestly, like we are that new wave that make being wise, being smart, being educated cool, right?
Absolutely.
Wisdom is a powerful tool, but oftentimes we might neglect it because of who it's coming from. You feel me? But if we can chop it up with a young buck and really implant a seed, man, like that's it's more than just education at that point. You know what I'm saying?
What's going on, beautiful people? This is the Let's Grow Together podcast, where diverse individuals and communities come to serve, connect, and grow in areas that they're most passionate about. Marcus, check in with the beautiful people. Let them know how you doing.
What's up? What's up, family? We back again, man, and again vibrant as always, man. Doing well again, man. Root staying active. Got a session going on Thursday, bro, around proper communication, learning how to funnel and actually channel that. Got some role plays, some scenarios, man. It's gonna be good, man. Love getting it in with the kids, and we actually just recently had one last week in regards to actually channeling emotion, really, and just talking about how to be expressive and things of that nature, man. So keeping the ball rolling. Actually, this weekend going to Charlotte with the family, man. Avery's birthday's coming up, so we about to spoil her real quick. So we ain't even going, and we ain't even going to the gym this week to save up all that energy and knock out all the tasks we need to do before we get out, man. So I got some extra energy for y'all today, man. But how you feeling, James? What's on your plate?
Man, I'm blessed, man. So first, I want to send some love to the family. Make sure you tell your daughter happy birthday for me. But man, it's another day, another beautiful day for impact. We started one of our virtual programs with our remote school, and bro, it's just been phenomenal just to see the impact that we've had on these youth in the last 2 weeks. Some of them struggle with their social skills and things of that nature. And before we started this program, some of the educators had never seen the students, like literally had never seen them on camera because the entire program is virtual. And in the 2 weeks that we've been working with them, we've already got them on camera and they're as vibrant as ever, having these conversations with us. And it's just been a dope transition from literally the first week and how they were like super reserved and now they're like super energetic. But I'm excited for more of that, man. But personally, I'm always blessed. I'm always excited for the impact that we're having on these youth. But brother, today, man, we have a very special episode, man. It's one that's going to be, near and dear to my heart because of the person that we have on today. She's actually the first female guest. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Miss Kim Hunter.
Hi, everyone. How's it going?
What's going on? What's going on, Miss Kim? Tell the people about yourself. Give us a quick little synopsis.
Oh, okay. My name is Kim Hunter. I am a former school counselor at the school where James graduated, a former mentor of James, and still doing this work. I am an educator, trainer, and counselor. So that is my titles, but just have a heart for pouring into young people.
That's dope. That's beautiful. So like talk about your journey as an educator. Like where did that come from? Like did you always know that you would want to be an educator, or was that something that just came to you after you lived life a little bit?
Okay. Yeah. So actually, I always knew I wanted to, in some way, to either teach or work with young people. Like I knew that. In grammar school, I always was the one that had the paper and the ruler and wanted to play school with the other students. And so when I graduated from high school and went to college, initially I went into education. However, I somehow ended in the social work track, and I ended up graduating with my degree in social work. And so I ended up becoming a school counselor, which fit both worlds because I was still able to be in that component of academics, but also have the ability to work with young people and address some of those other needs outside of the classroom. So that actually matched, what I was looking for. And so I served in the role of a school counselor for 9 years before my life was changed. And James, that's how you and I kind of really connected. While a school counselor at CPS High School, my son was killed in college, and that just probably ignited a passion in me to work with young men like the young man that had actually killed my son, because I believe that had he had some type of supports, had supports been there for him, the decision that he made that night when he killed my son, it possibly could have been a different outcome. And so that particular event changed I wouldn't say the course of my life, but definitely put me on a path, just a more intentional and purpose path as it relates to why I'm here, what I needed to be doing, and definitely making a difference while I'm here.
Man, so just hearing you out, man, and hearing that, right? Being able to, well, first, there's a forgiveness component there that I definitely need you to explore, because just from a collective community standpoint, I don't think we're really forgiving, in all transparency, right? We the type to hold beef, hold grudges for centuries. I'm beefing with you because my granddad people ain't like you feel me, back in the day. And again, being able to really get over that. But I also want to hit one more point you mentioned. So I have a two-part question. One, I want to dive into the forgiveness. And then second, I heard you mention just really pivoting within school, right? I work with a lot of college mentors, and a lot of times they don't know what they want to go in. But again, you were still able to find your passion, even though you thought it might have been a school route. You went to social work, which again, they were able to kind of come full circle. I want you to kind of dive into that. How did that come into play?
So, Marcus, are we going to talk about the forgiveness piece first? Because you're absolutely correct. The forgiveness had to happen in order for me to do this work. And it was the forgiveness that actually, to me, made me really able to do the work in a way that I could understand better the need for what the young people, especially the young men at the time that I was working with. I specifically targeted men or young men who, for the most part, could go either way, meaning they either could go down this path, and the trajectory would be, as we know it, prison or death, or they were like middle of the road students. And so I specifically targeted them because I believe that those were the ones most in need. I have to say that there were adults in the school that questioned why I targeted certain boys. In fact, I was asked, "You sure you want to work with them?" And I was saying, most definitely, those are the ones that I want. And I have to say, of those 5 that I started with, all 5 of those guys are doing just great work as young men in the community. So I stand by. All it takes is just one adult. One adult can change a young person's life. One adult, that's all it takes. And so imagine if all of these mentors that we have out here, if we're not working in silos, but collectively, man, just imagine the impact we can have on young people. But going back to that forgiveness, it had to happen. And I shared this story with James and my first 5 young men. I learned about the young man who killed my son. I learned about his upbringing at court. His mom struggled with addiction. His dad was not in his life. And that fit so many of my students. They also were having those same types of situations that they were experiencing in their lives. And so in that courtroom, while my family and my other son was filled with fury and rage after losing, my son, he lost his brother, I lost my son, and my husband was just filled with rage. But in the courtroom, compassion, I was filled with compassion for the young man. It was that compassion that then fueled and ignited the program MVP, Man's Valuable Purpose, because I believe God put in me that we are all here and we all serve a valuable purpose. And it is left to those who God chooses, and I believe God plants knowledge in people for us to help bring the purpose out of these others. And so that was how MVP was born. The compassion just revealed the knowledge for MVP, the compassion. So without the forgiveness, compassion would never have occurred, and the knowledge for MVP never would have happened without the forgiveness.
Hey man, but I just gotta give your flowers again, man. To be able to forgive, like man, like that takes a strong person, a strong woman. So again, man, definitely want to give you your flowers for that. Now, again, I want to also hear a little bit more about how you were able to like really pivot, right, from the social work, from the teacher to the social work. Again, I say
Yeah.
this because I think so many people are in school right now, don't really know what they want to do, right? And they find themselves kind of consistently altering or not being consistent and not really having that vision. How are you able to pivot and still really exploit your passion as well?
Yes. So I think fundamentally you have to go with what you like to do and what you're good at, right? So there we have natural talents. I believe that we are all gifted with certain things to do. And in those natural talents, there's purpose, right? So there's purpose for those talents. You're not just given those talents for like they're you have to use them.
Yeah.
And so I was gifted with the ability to, for whatever reason, tap reach young people. That I always had that ability. I was gifted with the ability to communicate. And so with those two talents, I always knew that in some realm I would somehow serve working with young people. And as I said, initially my thought was teacher. That was my first thought, teacher. But in college, I had the opportunity to take a lot of social work courses. And in taking the social work courses, I was able to then start to look at other ways that I could work with young people outside of the classroom. And I think that's what really that's what I connected with. So not being limited to just the classroom and just the academics and the curriculum, but yet being a part of their lives and being able to help them really navigate through life. Because I think that's the piece that connected with me, helping them navigate through life. And that meant outside of the classroom.
I 100% agree. It's a couple things that you said that resonated a lot with me, just simply because Marcus and myself can agree that we work with a lot of at-risk and high-risk youth, those youth that can literally go either way. And I think that the impact or the influence that we have on them is very crucial, because sometimes they don't realize they have that gift or that purpose or that opportunity to be great. And there's a great Les Brown quote that I say all the time, is that you have to believe in someone else's belief in you. And I think that early on, after the tragedy with your son and you birthed MVP, basically what you did was you went out on a limb and believed in some young men that may not have seen their potential at a particular time.
Absolutely.
And you were able to breathe life into a lot of us, because I can honestly say that some of us may have went a different route if we hadn't come into contact with you, because not only did we not have father figures in our lives, but we didn't have good mother figures in our lives either. And so that feminine energy that you provided to us was almost what really was motherly. And I think that the experiences that you gave us early on were putting us in situations that made us uncomfortable. Like I even recall doing like radio interviews, and none of us had any radio training. We're literally having these conversations, and it was just phenomenal. But I also wanted to say the piece about your son, that I believe that God gives us all tests so that we can let it have a testimony. And I think that without that unfortunate situation happening, you wouldn't have such a powerful testimony now, and you wouldn't have the impact that you have on the young men that you do, because it's coming from a genuine place.
Or is it strictly God?
No, I work strictly with men. Even now, I have ventured off and I work in the capacity. I work with adult men as well as elementary and high school. So in elementary and high school, I work with young men who have been impacted by trauma, whether it is abuse or losing a loved one to violence, or even young men who are already affiliated in the streets. So I work with young men in that capacity, but I also work with adult men who have in Illinois received gun cases, and they need some assistance with one, helping them work through that particular navigate that process and getting those cases expunged when they can.
I heard you mention mental health, trauma, channeling emotions, right? You're doing all this in the midst of being an example. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't give you enough flowers, and just women in general. Like Y'all are the backbone. I'm telling you, the traditional guy is situation, man. What? That's almost unheard of, like for real. But I think we can learn so much from you, and that's why I'm so amazed with your story and inspired by it. But I love it. But again, I know we were talking briefly about James and how y'all all really got connected, man. But James, you were chiming in. What was your question again, bro?
Yeah, man. I just wanted to again give her flowers like you were, but also just kind of talk about where you come from, because I think that plays a huge part of the work that you do. Because we both, like I said earlier, Marcus and I can agree that at risk and high risk youth, they really need that push. They really need that person that really understands them. And I think that part of like your upbringing and where you come from really plays a major role in that. So expand on that and tell our listeners a little bit about that.
Okay, so in terms of my background, for the most part, I share. So the walks of life that I have come from actually mirror a lot of the young men, right? So I came from. So every family, for the most part, has gangbangers in their family. People who struggle with substance abuse and addictions. So again, a lot of the young people that I work with, my life also mirrored a lot of that as well. And being able to, while my parents actually had the ability to put me in an environment where I actually blossomed and I was able to, pursue an education. My family members around me all struggled with, as we talked about, just so many vices, addictions, um, being in the streets, a lot of exposure to things that they were way too young to be exposed to. So I think that's another thing, Marcus, you talked about my ability to reach the young people. So being able to come from that uh, background and be in front of the young people and be able to share my story as well, I think that also helps them see that they too can, come from any environment, and it's a choice that you make. And it's also those who are around you that can pour into you. And as I said, for me, James talked a little bit about the situations that I would put them in, or the exposure. Um, I oftentimes would see them not as they saw themselves. Like, to me, I saw them as already a finished product, if that makes sense. They didn't see what I saw in them. And so oftentimes when they were thinking, or they had the thoughts in themselves that, I'm just a kid from, 119th, or I'm a kid from 111th, or I'm, in their mind, they limited themselves. So they saw themselves from a deficit viewpoint, but I didn't. I saw them as having this very valuable purpose that needed to be developed. And so that was my role. Like, I see when I'm looking at you, Marcus, I see a very valuable purpose that needs to be carried out here on this earth. When I'm looking at James, I see a very valuable purpose that needs to be carried out here on this earth. And the choices that we make and the influences that impact our lives can either develop that purpose or kill it.
Mm. So you meet them where they are, but you see where they're gonna be. Look,
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. And
Absolutely.
I know you're telling me just briefly, but I want to know a little bit more in the inside scoop on James, right? Again, I know you. I know
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Look,
yeah.
I gotta take this. Go ahead, talk to
Yeah,
me.
so as I said, again, I specifically targeted those young men who could go either way. And James, although he was brilliant academically, James was one of those kids who could go either way, because James, his temperament, if you get at James the wrong way, he was going to match your energy, right? So whatever you brought him, that's what he was going to match you with. And so again, being able to see James grow over the years, and just from the experiences that he had in high school, and then James won a scholarship through my mentoring program, MVP, and so he won a scholarship, and he was actually the first one who won the scholarship in MVP. But being able to see James then go through college, and James said, I remember one time he said, "This time I can remember going into the financial aid office. I was thinking that, I owed money, and just to know that the scholarship had taken care of that, he was like, man, that was just like a relief off my mind." So just having like those little, um, anecdotes kept me going and pouring into them. But yeah, seeing James grow from who he was back then, but it's actually what I saw what he could be. And I think that was it. I saw what he could be, even though he had not yet got to a place where he had the tools to bring it out, because it was there. So he had not had the tools yet, but I was one of the instruments that helped develop that purpose. And he's still evolving. He's still evolving. Yeah.
Man, I can actually speak to that. I remember going like, man, I remember when I got the scholarship, it was a blessing because the very next year, like, I didn't have that particular scholarship, so I was back paying. It was a difference that I had to pay for like books, and I was like, man, like that scholarship really helped me. But I think the most important thing that you just said was that, like, and it's about everything that you do, is that you identify or you understand that everybody has a purpose. With my program that I run, I say that everybody has a unique gift that they should share with the world. But for some reason, they don't see it as a gift. Sometimes they see it as a curse per se. Because I remember being in high school, and I was always very outspoken, but I would constantly get in trouble for speaking out. And if someone will allow you, or if you will allow somebody to kind of shut off your gift because they don't see the value in it, that could diminish a person too. And I want to give you your flowers for identifying that early, because like she said, like, I excelled academically, but there were some social things that I struggled with just because of the dynamic of how I grew up. And I think that's super important. So I want to give you kudos for that. And then also just giving us opportunities to stretch our thinking, stretch our imagination. Because me and Marcus talk about it all the time. A child can't be what a child can't see. And to be completely honest, like, I had no aspirations to go to college. Like, that was just not even in my plan. Like, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I knew that in some capacity I would own a business. But that didn't involve me necessarily going to college. But from having the different conversations with you about higher education, post-secondary education, and then the benefit of it, the opportunities that I would get from that, that showed me that, hey, like, maybe this isn't such a bad idea. And my life changed drastically after that. But I wanted to kind of backpedal a little bit, because you talked about your son and that incident. You talked about forgiveness, but I want to give you kudos, because you were the very first person that introduced me to the concept of restorative justice. And now, working with a lot of the youth that we use a lot of these restorative practices where, because I didn't know this back at the time, but this comes from a very, it's very indigenous practices where you're pretty much giving equity to the group. We use the circle example of restorative justice.
Yes.
I wanna know, where did you come about that information, and why was that so vital for you to use that, especially in terms of your process of forgiving the person that you signed?
Well, James, I do believe that God equips us along the way for whatever work he has for us to do. And so prior to the me losing Kordero, I was a circle keeper at a previous school. So the restorative practices I had been trained in prior to actually using them when I came to Finger, and using them in our mentoring program. And it's almost like all of the tools that I had gathered over the years, they were not actually used or utilized until MVP. So it's almost like God was equipping me for the work that I would do later. And the restorative practices, using the circle for us to, talk, and using the circle when we would just be able to explore different, channeling that energy, that voice, like you talked about, having a voice and channeling that the voice and that energy in that space. And also, what was most significant for me is creating a safe space for men of color to be okay talking, right? Creating that space for you guys to be vulnerable, because you didn't have that space. So many times we place all of these false beliefs on our young men, that you have to be this way, you have to be that way. And then to have a space created specifically where you could be vulnerable and we could get to the actual hurt, we could get to the actual pain, because that's where the healing could
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
And that's the part that was fulfilling for me, to see you guys actually get to the source of what was really driving a lot of the behaviors, getting to the source of that so the healing could start to take place.
Man, it's so dope just hearing you talk about it, because like, and subconsciously I knew this, because even when, because I'm not a trained restorative justice practitioner, but a lot of the guys that I'm in the nonprofit with are. And it's very interesting hearing you say this, and it's coming back to like, I'm recalling it. And you definitely used to have us in a circle, and if I'm not mistaken, we would have a talking piece, because the talking
Yes,
was
yes,
was the equity, was giving us equity in the conversation,
yes,
so that we felt like, hey, I'm speaking up, people are paying attention to what I have to say.
that's right.
Like you said, it was one of the first times it was just creating a safe space. Me and Marcus talk about this all the time, where vulnerability is strength. And I think as Black men, we lack that in a lot of situations. We just have to have this bravado, this ego,
Yep.
and we just have a lot to prove a lot of times. And that, like, restorative justice practices allow you to pretty much meet a person as they are, and allow them to be super vulnerable, so that you could really get to the root of the problem. Because just in its base, it's really about understanding the differences of the group, but also being a collective and being in a safe space that you can share that. So it's crazy. Like it didn't even register until you were just talking about it, that we were actually practicing that stuff in MVP. That's super dope.
Yeah.
So we always, even in our intro, man, we talk about, right, making education cool. And that's one thing you've been able to do, and I'm able to see when James lights up about it, right? So many educators and teachers just they aren't able to meet the kids where they are. They aren't able to really digest and make those genuine connections to show, I care about you, but let me hold you accountable as well, right? Tell us more about that, man, for some of the educators who aren't able to really make that connection, right? What insight would you have for them?
So for the most part, Marcus, I would say relationship, getting to know the young people you are working with. You guys know relationship is key, and authenticity, right? Being genuine. Our young people know when you are operating from a fake
Yeah.
space versus being real. And so, um, yeah, that was always so important to me, for the young people that I work with to also be able, I would open up my life to them as well. Right. And when I say open up my life, not where I'm telling them all of my business, but open up that side of me that was vulnerable too. So they could actually get a glimpse of my life, and then they become comfortable, and they would also then open up, as I said, their lives as well. So many times our young people are so guarded, and they're guarded for so many reasons. One, they're raised not to trust. They're raised not to trust any outsiders. They're raised to keep secrets. They're raised to live out just a lot of bad, um, you know, things that they have been raised to do, behaviors that they have learned, unhealthy behaviors. They continue to carry out those unhealthy behaviors, and they, for the most part, do not trust and will not let anyone else in. And so when we talk about how can educators make learning fun, one, you have to truly want to do the work that you're doing, and you have to see it beyond getting a child to learn math or getting a child to write a paper. Like you, to me, James was, and the young people that I work with, they were my children. In the moment that I was in their life, they were my children. And when you have educators that see them just a student, and that's not my problem, that's the big problem right there.
Yeah.
Because if you are an adult and you are entrusted with these children, then for that moment when you are with them, you are taking on that child as your child. And so you would not let any harm come to your child. And so that's how I felt James and the other young men. I'm not going to let any harm come to them. I created a space where they knew if they needed me and they were in a space that was unsafe, they could call me. I did not put them in positions that was uncomfortable for them. I put them in positions to grow them. And so I always looked out for them as though they were my children.
Yeah, I think two things that you said that was very key. You mentioned authenticity and genuinely loving the work that you do. You hit it right on the head. Like youth or just people in general, a lot of times can spot BS when they see it. Especially if somebody's just coming to try and collect a check or see them as a check, because a lot of the influence and impact and the dollars that you receive is really based off the impact that you have with the youth and the numbers that you have. So a lot of times people don't necessarily honestly care about the youth the way that they say they do.
Absolutely.
A really quick story. I'm not going to name the organization, but I do some work. I'm contracted with an organization, and they pretty much told me that majority of their mentors of these at-risk and high-risk youth in urban areas is 40-year-old white men. And they wonder why these white men don't have the impact that they should or the influence that they should on the youth. It's because they don't really understand where the youth are coming from. And a lot of times they're just coming to collect a check. And a lot of times the youth don't feel like they're genuinely invested, because a lot of times the youth will tell me, you don't know what I go through. You don't really understand, not knowing that we come from very similar backgrounds and upbringings that they do. And like you said, unless you're able to be vulnerable and share a little bit of your personal story with us, we'll never understand it. And I believe that, you know, people that don't look like us can have an impact in these communities if they genuinely care. But I think it's more effective when the people that look like you share the same stories as you, and they show you that doing something better is possible. But let's pivot a little bit. You know, whenever we see Miss Hunter, you know, she's living her best life on social media, or even when we were together, like whenever we went to these different events, you know, you were dressed to the T, looking good. You know, we used to have to protect, you know, certain men away from her because she was looking so good, living her best life. But I want you to talk a little bit about the importance of self-care and really taking time to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Definitely. So self-care is very important. This work that we do, it definitely can be draining, right? Because we are, if you're really serious about this work, you are looking, you are taking on or investing in other people's lives. As I said, I invest in the young people that I work with, because to me, I don't know who I am possibly coming into contact with. I don't know who James, like what James will, you know, actually contribute on this earth, right? So when I come into contact with young people, and now you, Marcus, I'm not sure what your purpose is here. And so for me, when I am investing into your lives, I'm giving it all I have. And so it's pulling out of me, right? And so I have to re-energize myself and refuel. And so some of the things that I do, I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to check it out, my social media page, but I skate. And James, you know, I roller skate. I still roller skate. I believe in, you know, massages and, you know, getting out there and moving the body around, because again, I am investing in purposes, and that I'm pouring it out. I'm giving all I have. And so I have to refuel. And I believe in self-care and refueling my energy. Because again, guys, when Miss Hunter is no longer on this earth, I want to leave this earth empty.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to have anything left inside of me that I should have poured out. I want to leave it empty.
Hey, we always talk about it, man. This says people who really are engaged and invested in youth. If you're seriously, you gonna burn out. You gonna burn out. It's gonna be that story. It's gonna be that mom. It's gonna be something where you just hit that brick wall. And of course, your why is gonna always keep you going. But when you pour out to people, you gotta pour back into yourself.
That's
So
right.
self-care is so vital. For thank you for sharing that note, man. A lot. If you want to sign up for this work, man, it's taxing. But like they need you, so you need yourself. So get your feet rubbed, get a massage. I'm in my way, and I got my little pedicure, my little.
Absolutely, yeah.
You feel me? You feel me? So
Every 2
that's
weeks, right?
oh nah, ain't that frequent, but hey, that ain't bad.
Hey,
I
I
love
feel
it. But again, it's necessary, man. But Miss Hunter, I believe you shared a whole lot of jewels with us, man. Again, your passion definitely radiates. So my question is, Miss Hunter, where can the people find you if they want to tap in with you, maybe use you as a resource, anything of that nature? Where can we find you?
Okay, definitely. You can look me up on Facebook. So Kim Hunter. Also email me, krhunter40@gmail.com. Yeah, I'm out there. I'm out here, man, doing the work. I'm out here.
We love it. We love it. We love it. And hey, but again, sincerely as always, family, man, we appreciate y'all hopping on. Again, this is Let's Learn Together. We're gonna continue to have phenomenal individuals like Miss Hunter, the other individuals y'all have seen up to this point, man, and we're gonna be very transparent, right? As Miss Hunter talked about vulnerability, right? We're gonna shed some light on a lot of different key components from a cultural standpoint that need to be had. And as y'all see, we're gonna continue to bring fire guests, man. So on behalf of James, myself, man, we are Let's Grow Together. We appreciate y'all as always, family. Y'all have a blessed night.
Thanks so much. Love seeing you guys do this work.